Today is April 21st, 2025. My name is Rob Carr of Kalamazoo Right to Life. This is Pro-Life Week. Well, the big news on the international scene was the passing of Pope Francis this morning in Italy, age 88. So the College of Cardinals will be convening at the Vatican this week, and they will pick a successor to Francis, and we'll see who they choose. I know Francis had somewhat of a mixed, not agenda, but platform message, in that he was pro-life, very pro-life, but he did seem to embrace certain aspects of the seamless garment. And I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about when I say that. Some social justice issues that didn't always sit well with some real conservative Catholics. But we'll see how it all turns out. Pope Francis did make his mark on world history. So, but today I do want to talk briefly, and I'm not going to be reading. I know I've probably been driving a lot of you people crazy that I'm just reading off a script and not just talking. But today I just want to talk briefly about what's going on in the Democratic Party. I noticed that the new vice chair of the party is this young 25-year-old David Hogg. And maybe it's Hogg. I'm not pretty sure how it's pronounced. But, when I think of a vice chair, I think of vice president, the number two guy at the helm. So he's awfully young to be at that high echelon of leadership in the Democratic Party. And he has been making waves, making enemies, by saying that he intends to fundraise and primary Democrats not to his liking, i.e. old, entrenched Democrats who have not had the wisdom to pass the baton to younger Democrats. And maybe he's thinking about Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or who knows, Jim Clyburn, Maxine Waters. There are some Democrats who are in their mid to late 80s, and they probably do need to go. The Republican Party has had that same issue or problem. We all know the term RINO, acronym Republican in name only. These are moderate Republicans. Like Mitt Romney might have been considered a RINO. Oftentimes they would be voting with moderate Democrats or with Democrats in general, and not really sticking to the party line, which is more conservative, more the Tea Party than the RINOs. So it does work in both parties. But David Hogg is only 25 years old, and he is causing division, a civil war in the party. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, have the Democrats learned anything from the November election? Just think back. Why did Kamala Harris lose? I mean, obviously there were a lot of reasons, but she really did not present a new vision for the party. I mean, she even said on The View, she was asked, would you do anything differently? Nothing comes to mind. Nothing comes to mind in doing anything differently than President Biden. Nothing comes to mind. So if you didn't want to vote for Biden, why should you vote for Harris? She's not going to do anything new, anything different. And then there was that last campaign message of the Trump campaign that was very effective, and the Democrats had no answer for it. They didn't question it. They really felt, I believe, that this message was going to fall on deaf ears. It wasn't going to change any votes. But the message had to do with transgender surgeries and transgender students, women, men and women's sports. And the close of the ad was very effective. She, Kamala Harris, she is for they, them. Donald Trump is for you. Now that was a convincing message. And the Democratic Party, they have latched onto a lot of really extreme positions. The Democrats talk about how extreme the Republicans are, but when it comes to social issues, whether it's abortion on demand through all 9 months of pregnancy, transgender rights paid for by the taxpayer, men competing in women's sports, men invading women's locker rooms, disrobing, stark naked, and a teenage girl has to deal with this. Whatever happened to consent? Shouldn't she be allowed to consent to having a man with no clothes on in the locker room? The other side is talking about rights all the time. But what about a 16-year-old girl's consent to have this man invade her locker room or to play on a competing team and could cause bodily harm? So the Democrats have embraced a lot of really out of the mainstream positions. 80-20, that's the new slogan, 80-20 issues. Only 20% of the American public supports the transgender movement. And they haven't, and immigration, should we be deporting gang members or criminals? It's an 80-20 issue. But Democrats are fighting this. And David Hogg comes along, and he is in this narrow 20% lane where he is pro-abortion, pro-gay rights, pro-transgender rights, pro-illegal immigration rights. Right down the line on some of these key issues, he is wrong. But he is determined to find candidates who are in his ilk, to his liking, in his worldview. That's what he's looking for. He's looking for the pro-transgender people. He's looking for the abortion in all 9 months kind of a candidate. He's looking for an open border kind of candidate. That's what he's looking for. And when I think of why the Democrats lost in November, if I'm thinking, why did we lose? Maybe we lost because our positions were not in the mainstream. Maybe we need to move to the middle. Maybe we need to kind of jettison and abandon some of our crazy liberal positions and move a little bit more mainstream so we can attract or win back moderate Democrats who voted for Trump. Move to the middle. David Hogg's position, move farther to the left. Farther to the left. And I do not think that is a winning strategy. I do not think it is going to appeal to mainstream Democrats, and especially Democrats who gave Donald Trump a second look and voted for the Republican Party. David Hogg could be the Democrats' undoing, and obviously it's not just looking for crazy candidates, but they are looking for candidates who are pro-abortion. And Emily's List, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Emily's List. It's a PAC. They raise money for pro-choice Democratic women to run for office. You could be the most ideologically driven pro-abortion Democratic man running for office. You will not get a penny from Emily's List because they only give money, they only give their endorsements to pro-choice women, and only pro-choice Democratic women. You know, you could be a real liberal woman, pro-choice right down the line, strong on reproductive rights. You're not going to get a penny because Emily's list only supports Democratic women who are pro-choice. Period. And you know, I'm sure David Hogg is in bed with Emily's list because these are the kind of people he's looking for. Young, a lot of women. He wants to primary a lot of these old-time, long entrenched Democratic congressmen and senators, and maybe other, like governors or other races. Get rid of these people because Hogg wants to move the party farther to the left, further to the left, not the right, to the left. And my response is, go for it. Just do it, David Hogg. Just do it. Find the most ideological left-wing extremists you can find. Find them, encourage them, promote them. And you will find on election day of 2026 that you have made a catastrophic mistake because Americans, whether they're liberal or conservative or Republican or Democrat, they do want mainstream candidates. And, you know, like I think we've talked before, Donald Trump is not a conservative. He's a populist. He's not a conservative Republican. And he's not, you know, 100% pro-life like we are. He supports abortion for you know, rape and incest. You know, he's not a pure doctrinaire pro-lifer. But he's not what Joe Biden was. He's not Kamala Harris. No, he's not crazy like they are. And David Hogg is a part of this younger Democratic movement that wants to move the party farther and farther to the left. Maybe he's a socialist. Maybe he's a communist. But his message will not appeal to mainstream Democrats. And with that, I'll let you go and I'll see you next time.